of substance use.
With the with the impact of substance use, it will also go into how substances can affect an infant in utero, and how it can give long-term effects that you may not see right away. Sorry. We'll talk, it will touch upon fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and how with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, it's a permanent brain injury. And when families are able to view it as such, it helps them to I don't want to say lenient, but it helps them to be understanding of the behaviors that they engage in, because the brain was impacted. And so they view things differently. In this session, the characteristics that are focused on is being resilient and being patient with a child with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Family parents that are committed, and and foster families that has adaptability and flexibility for that youth.
And we're going to go into understanding the potential developmental impact, but I preface it with Michelle and I are not doctors. We're not medical doctors. So we will do our best to kind of break down some of the impacts of how this works on the brain and how it impacts our young people during in utero. So understanding a little bit of that impact, in page 165 of that participant resource manual that was emailed to everyone, it gives a little more of that breakdown. But really understanding that legal is not better, because sometimes people are like, oh, alcohol, it's legal, it's fine, it's not a big deal, or with the weed as well, or smoking cigarettes. And really understanding that whether it's alcohol or crack, they're still going to have a negative impact on the young person. Drugs and alcohol used during pregnancy causes a wide range of problems. Even with heavy exposure, some children seem unaffected. There are individual factors of mother and baby that influence the outcome. Nature and nurture are both equally important. And really understanding that balance too, because whether it's the environment and how we support the young person, but also understanding their biological makeup is going to be important as well when we're parenting our young people that have been exposed in utero. Problems can be.
I got a question real quick before you're going to move on from this. Oh, so the question is, what about the babies that are born to addicted moms? I mean, they have to be affected.
Absolutely. So, and it all depends, because the science shows that they will be affected. The increase in the chances and likelihood with a parent that has used substances is much higher, the percentage of young people that are going to be affected by this. But there are small windows sometimes where there is a child that could be unaffected and no one knows how that happens. Like, honestly, it's kind of a luck of the draw, but we know that the percentage is much higher when the parent is using substances that it will impact negatively the young person. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So some additional impacts of substance use. Prenatal exposure to substances is associated with a higher risk of addiction problems later in life. Children who have been exposed are often born to parents who struggle with addiction and the problems that are often associated with addiction. Parents' substance use may have affected their ability to meet their child's physical and emotional needs. And addiction is a disease, and the child will need to see and hear your empathy for their parent. And that was in some videos too, as well, of like when we discussed in other classes of how we show empathy and compassion for our young people's biological family, and we don't have that shaming and blaming or judgmental language when we're talking about the biological family, because there's so much more that may have also impacted our children's biological parents and impacted their growing up and what affected them. And so while we may say, well, you could have, should have, would have, you could have done better, could have made better choices, we don't know also what happened for that young person's parent and how it impacted their life choices as well. So just keeping that in mind as well when we're talking with them and providing that support.
Mhm.
So what are, oh, my thing's cutting off. What are fetal alcohol syndrome, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, right, Michelle? Tongue ties.
I know, it is.
So these are just all the different ways of how they break it down, and how you can hear it medically being stated as a diagnosis: fetal alcohol syndrome, partial fetal alcohol syndrome, alcohol-related birth defects, alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorder, neurobehavioral disorder associated with prenatal alcohol exposure. Mouthfuls, all of them, but
Yeah.
bottom line means the young person in utero was exposed to substances.
And how the brain has been, impacted.
Yep. You want to take this one, Michelle?
Hold on, I need to remove my little boxes. The stages of impact on development for children with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. You know, just things that, to look out for is, I mean, here it just lists off like what it could potentially look like for an infant. Low birth weight, sensitivity to light and noise, or even touch. Irritability, unable to suck effectively when they're, when they're trying to have their bottle. Slow to develop. You may find that they're taking longer to crawl or longer to walk, longer to speak. They may have potential chronic ear infections, as well as trouble sleeping and trouble soothing. For toddlers, it may look like poor memory, hyperactivity, seems to have no fear. And for some toddlers, it could just be just the way they are, but for a child that has been exposed in utero, it may be more so with having no fear. And speech and language delays. As the child continues to get older, you'll see more and more deficits, like having poor social skills with, around peers, easily distracted, short attention span, poor coordination, trouble with large and fine motor skills. They may have more difficulty to manipulate objects. They may have difficulty in school. As a child continues to grow into their teenage years, they may suffer from low self-esteem because they're beginning to recognize, oh, my peers don't want to hang out with me because I don't get the social cues, or I don't know the boundaries. And so you have the impulse, the lack of impulse control, and the kids are starting to notice this. So for these individuals, this is where they may get bullied or pushed away. For the teenager as well, they may need to be reminded of concepts on a daily basis, just because they know today, they may not know tomorrow. So it's being repetitive with them and being consistent with them
Mhm.
on a day-to-day.
And this will also definitely go back to when we talked about chronological age versus developmental age. So chronologically, you may be like, okay, this young person, like infants and toddlers, typically you don't see them having as many difficulties, because at that young age, you're not seeing them like in a school setting or those social interactions. So you can't see comparatively where they should be versus their peers at the same age. But you start to see it really unravel more during school age and teenage years, because you start to see more like the young person is not developing and they're not hitting milestones like they would typically would. So yeah, this is just reiterating, like infancy, toddler, and early school years, many children do okay at this age, because again, they're not getting tests, they're not being seen in those different kind of situations or being compared, so to speak, to their peers of the same age. Then during pre-adolescent and adolescent age, you start seeing more of those increasing challenges, difficulty with the abstract thinking, lagging the social skills, and the hormonal changes, which adds a whole nother layer to where it makes it really difficult to manage kind of almost that stress of knowing like I should be doing this or I should be able to get this and I'm not getting it and my peers are. So it adds a whole nother layer to that. And then in young adulthood, you start seeing increasing social and emotional maturity, where you start to see that they're working on this and trying to develop those pieces. But again, there's gonna be some difficulties and lagging skills in those areas. Sam, you want to read the case study for Amira?
Amira is a 16-year-old girl who has FASD. She is in special education school with lots of support for her challenging behaviors and learning needs. She gets frustrated very easily and has a hard time controlling her emotions. She reads at a 4th grade level and does 3rd grade level math. She is obsessed with boys and has many boyfriends already at age 16. She enjoys wearing makeup, buying clothes, shopping, and talking on the phone. She doesn't have any same age friends, although she talks to teenage boys on the phone regularly. For her birthday, she is asking for a doll in a Barbie movie. She recently rented an Arthur video from the library, and she enjoys playing with her neighbor's kids who are 5 and 6 years old.
So when we look at Amira, we want to see like how we would break her down into developmental quadrants. So for physical or chronological, what would you put her age at? We just said she was how old?
Sorry, 16.
Yep. So 16 for physical and chronological. For emotional, where would she fall?
Lower
Five or
than
Mhm.
Like about 8 years old.
Right. And then for social?
Around the same age.
16.
Mhm.
No, social. She likes to play with the 5-year-olds. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And her cognitive?
Yeah, that's not good either. She's at 3rd and 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah, because
correct?
That's like about 9.
Because remember, we were talking about she has a hard time controlling her emotions. She reads at a 4th grade level and does 3rd grade math. Obsessed
Right.
with boys, has had many boyfriends, likes the makeup and the clothes, but then she's also wanting to have a doll in the Barbie movie and the Arthur video, right?
Yeah.
Playing with the younger kids. So this is how we want to think about our developmental quadrant for any of our kids, so we can break it down and we can separate chronological versus the developmental age. And so keep this in mind when you have a young person coming into your home. They have their physical age and you get that right off the bat, right? It's a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. But then as you start to get to know your young person, you'll start to see like, are they really at that age? Are they at the typical milestones? Are they encountering those same typical developmental issues as their peers or social issues, so that you can have a better frame of reference on how you're going to address problems? Because if something comes up for like this young person, you wouldn't address it with her the same way you would for any 16-year-old. You might have to break it down a little more for her, more concretely. And what gets confusing for FASD kids is sometimes they have the verbal capacity to talk to you, and you wouldn't know right away that they're having some limitations or they're not processing the information the same way until you start engaging in a full-blown conversation and you start to realize they're not fully understanding all the concepts. The abstract thinking isn't fully there, and you're finding yourself repeating things and trying to find other ways to explain your idea so that they can understand it at a more concrete level. So just something to keep in your toolkit of how you want to frame things and think about it in your head when you're meeting your young people. Okay. So understanding the brain impact. Oh, this one's always a challenge, right, Michelle?
It is. It is. This is, I'm gonna try, I'll try. With this brain scan, they did a scan on a 13-year-old boy that does not have fetal alcohol syndrome versus a child that was a 13-year-old boy with fetal alcohol syndrome. And what what they find is that the corpus callosum, that stem, that brain, the
white structure in the center of the brain.
how it connects it connects the right and the left hemisphere of the brain so that it allows communication between both sides. And so what's shown is that without fetal alcohol syndrome, the corpus callosum is bigger, versus a child that has fetal alcohol syndrome, it's a lot smaller. So this is where the impairment that we see, the reason why there's the impairment, because there's not as much communication happening in the brain relaying the information. And so this is where when the child is struggling to remember what they were told, they're struggling to remember the steps that they were given. They have difficulty retaining that. They may do it one time, or you may notice that instead of giving that youth 3 steps to do, you may find that the child remembers the first one and potentially maybe the last one, but everything in between, you have to be you have to remind them over and over again.
And what they may have known to do yesterday, if you have structure and routine set up, they might not remember it the next day. And not for a fault of their own, it's just that inconsistency, because the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain are not able to communicate strongly and consistently with one another. And that's where, when Michelle had said earlier, how they look at this as a brain injury, because essentially it has impacted the development of the brain and the ability for right side and left side to talk to one another, so that they can repeat these and have that memory recall and remember what the routine is and be able to do those routines every single day. There will be inconsistencies for the young person that has fetal alcohol syndrome because of this.
So other common challenges that the child may have, again, the inconsistency, lack of impulse control, difficulty sensing the passage of time, like not being aware of how much time has passed, or you may see behaviors during time to transition to another activity. They may struggle with that. Difficulty with generalizing, using skills to transfer over into something that's similar. They may have difficulties in doing that. Difficulty with generalizing, difficulty with sensory integration issues, meaning that over or undersensitive to smell, to noise, to texture as well, and even touch. Having difficulty with judgment. They have struggles with working memory. Again, difficulty remembering and being able to to memorize it and put it into action. They'll struggle with that. And having poor comprehension to what's being told to them or explained to them. It's trying to find different ways in order to help them understand. And again, it's gonna take a lot of repetition and getting creative.
So
Real
I-
quick, I just made an observation. It's, I'm thinking about the kids that I service, and because summer school started today, so I started summer school today, and how difficult it must be to identify this as opposed to some other, autism or something like that. You know what I mean?
or even someone that has like borderline intellectual functioning, and it could
Right.
just be something else that's causing it. But really, for fetal alcohol syndrome, a lot of it has to do with those brain scans, and being able to
Right.
see what has impacted the brain development. Whereas some of our youth that are on the autism spectrum just have it on the autism spectrum, or have cognitive impairments and have borderline or low IQ functioning, those are
Mm.
done more by tests and being able to see where they fall along a range of things, with the psychologist to be able to see what's impacting them and give them a diagnosis as well.
Wow.
But it is very tricky, and that's why that's really key to have that communication with your treatment team members so that you can best support the young person when you see them struggling.
For the next session, addressing challenges and reframing behaviors, there's a case study about a child who steals. This is something we've also encountered. This particular child would steal cell phones.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
I can
so you want me to read it, Michelle?
I can read it. The case study, I have it printed here.
Okay.
Martin has a fetal alcohol syndrome disorder and has struggled with stealing since his toddler years. No amount of consequences or sticker charts have had an impact on the stealing, leading to huge issues in the family. The parents were consistently disappointed and frustrated because Martin's stealing was taking place on a regular basis and the issue was starting to impact their relationship with him. When Martin was 11 years old, the parents received some training to better understand that Martin's disability was brain-based, and they changed their approach. They sat down with Martin and told him they would not give him a consequence any longer for stealing. They discussed that it still was not acceptable, but that they wanted to work with him to keep giving him the skills to not take things that were not his. They had tried for years of therapy with various therapists with no impact. At age 11, he had already stolen dozens of cell phones. One day, Martin's parent found a cell phone in his backpack that did not belong to him. The parent approached their son and said, "Who do I need to get this back to?" Phrasing the question this way took the blame and shame away and did not put Martin on the defense immediately. Martin told her who the phone belonged to immediately, which was rarely the case in previous situations. The parent asked Martin where the phone was when he stole it. Martin said he was at school and he saw the phone on a student's desk. Martin's parent asked him what happened next, and he said that he took the phone. Martin's parent asked him how he felt when he took it, and the son replied, "It felt so good. I want a cell phone so bad, and I got really happy." Martin's parent then asked other questions about how the person who owned the phone likely felt when they realized it was missing, how much time they spent looking for it. The final question the parent asked Martin was, "How do you feel now about having taken the phone?" Martin replied that he did not feel good about it, and they had a conversation about stealing and the reasons why it isn't okay. After about a year of this new approach, Martin stopped stealing.
So thoughts, why was this new approach successful? What do you guys think?
I think it probably was successful because like she took the blame and shame away initially, and then she kind of put him in the place of the person who lost the phone or the person he took the phone from, and kind of so he can kind of see what impact that had on the other person. And it probably didn't feel good, right? So he probably wouldn't want that to happen to him. So I think having that approach and for him to kind of see how his behaviors kind of affect others may have been, what worked over time.
Yeah, and we're talking about it's at a year, right? So that's a lot of patience as well, being able to address this without reacting and without shaming and blaming and scolding and saying, "What the hell's wrong with you? Why don't you stop this? Why are you doing this?" And it wasn't becoming a cycle of the fighting, the arguing, and just repeating over and over. It was more of taking a different approach and really being patient to work through what's going on? Like, why are we doing this? And whose is it? And how would you feel?
That's a lot of patience and a lot of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
depending on the school that this child goes to, this happens a few times that student could get expelled or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
the
all.
school system, yeah.
Yeah, and it's part of our job too to be able to help advocate in the school. What are the underlying reasons? Why could this be happening? It's not your typical youth that's just being, naughty and mischievous and saying, "I'm going to steal some kid's phone." There's more to Martin's story, right? If he's a young person that we know has fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, discussing that and saying how this is not him just doing this impulsively and just to, be naughty. It's really about him not having that impulse control, not being able to make those positive choices and having the poor judgment, and how can we help support him. So even when a school is saying, okay, young person is going to be suspended, and you have like a manifestation hearing and you're talking about what was the driving source? Was this really because he was just doing this, or was there something else that was going on for him?
But
And
I don't mean to cut you off, but from with the story, because it went on for like a long period of time, so it seemed like it's like a compulsive disorder where like he don't have no control over it. And then the person, like, they done talk to him in a different way, like they got to him, like, they tapped on like his emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and then he kind of like stopped because how they kind of like reframed it and saying it to him. But as you were saying, with the resources at school, I would have figured at a certain point they would have stopped suspending him. Them ICPs and everything. He should have been stopped getting suspended, because it's not like, see, he just stealing phones. So you see, he got a thing. He just taking the phones. It's not like he taking people wallets and he knocking people over. Like, he got an eye for the phone, like a person who's autistic almost.
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect way to put it, because it's not him just doing this to get a rise out of people. It's really like a kid that has autism, when they get fixated on a color or an object or something else around them, and being able to talk to them repetitively as well to see how can we change their perspective and let them see and learn a new skill.
Would they have him in like a special needs school or something like that?
Depending on where they're at developmentally and how they're managing themselves in the school system, that can definitely happen, where they can be in specialized programming, or have an IEP or a 504 plan or whatever the case might be, to best support him.
I think what I was going to say also is that just like how the parent kind of asks him about the impact on the other youth, you can also talk to him about the impact of his behaviors on himself. Like, most kids want to be liked by their peers, right? They want to have friends, and something like this can really isolate him from his peer group or having friends, because they don't want their things taken by him or their phone taken by him. So I think you can kind of put that into perspective for him as well.
Good point. Yeah.
So sorry, reframing responses to challenging situations. A child's, the challenge, a child refusing to shower or bathe and is starting to have strong body odor. That can be a challenge, right? The more active that the child gets,
Yeah.
the child doesn't want to take a shower, but how can you encourage the youth to take a shower without saying, oh, you smell awful or anything to that nature?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I think I would try to maybe talk with the team as well to see what the root of the issue is, because I know some youth who have been sexually abused, they kind of have issues with the shower. Maybe it happened in the shower or whatever. They figured if I don't shower, no one would want to, be around me or touch me. So I would try to see what the root cause is and make sure they have the right supports, where it's a psychiatrist or a therapist or someone to kind of work that out with them. But also, I think in the home, we would talk about just good hygiene practices. And just because if I'm smelling it, probably their peers are smelling it. And I'm sure the peers are not going to be as nice as I am. They're going to, make comments and make them feel uncomfortable. We could talk about how we can avoid that. And, you know, even if they don't want to shower every day, let's do 2 days a week or whatever it is, try to compromise so that they are actually doing something, and then increase the time that they shower to where they're now showering every day.
It's unfortunate. I have a friend that has her daughter, when she turned, I don't know, like 12 or so, and started to grow boobies and hairs popping out and all of that. Now she decides not to shower. It was a constant battle in the house for her to get that child to shower. And even brush her teeth, you know? And now she turned 18, she's got a job. There's a bunch of issues, but I'm just so proud of her, how she's turned things around. And she cleans herself now. She washes her hair. That was another thing. Her mom couldn't get her to comb her hair, and she never figured out what the problem was, because she had a lot of therapy and so forth, and it just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting because some kids will just go through a phase sometimes where they just don't want to shower, and you have to work with them on that, or they go in the shower and they literally just like jump in, get wet, and jump out, and they're like, I'm done. And it's like, oh no.
Turn
I
the
need to
water
see that.
on. Yes, Ma,
Yeah.
I'm showering.
Yeah, no, we need some soap. You didn't shower.
Yeah.
Like, and when I worked in residential treatment, it was a thing where it was like, okay, well, I need to see your arm out of the shower, like soaped up, to make sure that you're using the soap and washing. But it can be challenging, especially when you come to summer months, right? So thinking
And
about
having a period and all of that.
Absolutely.
Very
So
bad.
thinking about like creative ways of how we can compromise, how we can help them increase to shower and take care of themselves and engage in proper hygiene.
I had a situation, I had a situation like that when I was doing residential with the group home. It was a young 13-year-old little boy, and he wasn't showering. And I went and brought him some men shower stuff, and I joked with him. I said, man, you start using this, all the girls are gonna be all over you, man. Oh man, I just joking with him, and telling him how the ladies are gonna be all over. And I said, and you're gonna have so many more friends, and I just made it a joke, and it worked. So sometimes it depends on the individual. Um, on how you go about it. With him, I was able to joke with him, and he was able to relate with me. And then I actually brought him a little gift between me and him. I was like, "Hey, use this, man. This really, man. Oh, man." And he loved it. So sometimes it's every child have its own different way of getting to them, I think.
Absolutely. And then also, like, what were they exposed to? What were they taught? Were they taught how to bathe and take care of their hygiene? Or was their parent also having struggles where they weren't engaging in their own hygiene as well because of their own mental health considerations that were happening? And something I love recently, my kids at camp were telling me that the camp now has a ton of deodorant running around the camp. and the counselors have deodorant time, and they tell the kids like, hey, they each have their own deodorant stick. And I was like, how are they doing this? One, how are they affording this for all these kids? But two, how are they doing this? But they were talking to the kids about hygiene, and they're like, listen, everyone's going through hormones, everyone's having issues, but we're going to make sure no one's stinky and we all have deodorant. And they were talking about how everyone has different needs and abilities, and what do they have at home, and maybe families that can't afford the deodorants or can't afford to have these extra things, they were going to have some extra at the camp so no one felt left out. And I was like, how cool. Like, they were just openly talking about it. So it didn't become a bullying situation or where the kids were going to start to call each other out on stuff. They were like, nope, it's all of us. We all got to do this and we're all in it. So we're going to put our deodorant on because they're outdoors all day. And then finding out that they also had like toothpaste and toothbrushes and things like that for the kids who needed it. And they were talking about like, hey, if you need something, just come and talk to me on the side or whatever, so that the kids would get that and be able to have those opportunities. So I just thought it was neat. So I had to share.
That is.
Ooh, I love this one. The child refuses to use lotion on their very dry skin. Child won't apply it or let you apply it. Kills me every day when I see my children looking ashy. Like, no, what's going on? How do we handle that kind of situation?
I would put some on and just say how good it feels,
Mhm.
and use it in front of them, like, and just like be rubbing it in and say, man, this feels great. And then ask them if they want to try it. Sometime when they see you doing it and you're being the leader, sometimes they just go for it and they feel comfortable doing it. Because like you said, sometimes maybe where they were, they didn't get that. I remember one time I made a cake in the middle of the week, and all the kids said, "Whose birthday is it?" And I was like, "No, I'm just making a cake." So sometimes where they come from, they just don't have that
Mhm.
teaching. Sometimes we just got to show them.
I think I'd probably get a moisturizing body wash or something if they won't. That would help a little bit, Mm. Yeah.
Or thinking also culturally, what kind of lotion are they used to? Is it oil that they're more accustomed to? Is it like the cocoa butters? Is it the spray lotions? What are they accustomed to also? Because sometimes what we're offering might not be what they're used to as well.
Yeah, you can let them pick out, take them to the store and let them pick something out.
Mm-hmm. Or get like the ones that smell really nice, because then and they might like that a little more too. You never know.
Sometimes when you have other kids in the home, they mimic the other kids
Mm-hmm.
or whoever that's in the home. Cause I remember when my son was in elementary school and my brother came to live with us with his son, and my brother ironed my nephew's clothes every night. Of course, I wasn't doing that. I was not doing that. And my son's like, you see, like Uncle Leslie be doing, I want my clothes ironed. And I was like, oh man.
Gotta learn from him.
Right. I was like, dang, I got iron this boy. And he really made me feel some kind of way. And I was like, oh man, now I gotta iron this boy clothes. Like I just used to take it out the dryer, fold it, and let it iron itself.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I'm sure you were side-eyeing your brother that day. Like,
What? I was like, wow, he just come in. And he made my brother was like militant. He made my nephew put on his slippers all the time. So of course, like while my son is watching this, he wanted that. And of course, and then it taught me to do a little better, you know.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Mhm. Michelle, you want to do this one?
Yeah. Teen keeps taking food while everyone is sleeping. What are some of your thoughts in order to help decrease this for a youth without shaming them.
The first concern would be this kid is eating way in the night and I would worry about his health, obesity and all of that stuff, you know?
Mhm.
That's would be my first concern. Then these ideas that they have here, give them healthy snacks.
Mhm.
Cause some people have problems with their, what is it, blood sugar? Or diabetics and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I would have to provide something healthy for them to
Well,
snack on.
what I would do is I would make like a little basket of snacks, and they know this is yours. No one's gonna eat these snacks. These are yours. Keep it on the counter, so because I don't want eating in the room. I don't want bugs and bugs to come. So I would definitely keep and let them pick out their own snacks. And put a basket together, and they know anytime they want a snack, they don't have to sneak and take it. There's a basket of healthy snacks on the counter. You can grab yourself a snack.
Mhm.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can.
So, I have a friend that she has a foster child, and I guess you would say he have like these behaviors because he wants to go home with his family. He wants to go home with his family. Let's just cut it short there. But he has a habit of drinking a lot of soda. She said that when she has soda in the house, it's like he would drink a big bottle or all the canned sodas, just like soda, soda, soda after soda.
Until
Like,
it's completely gone.
yes. And it's like, it's none for nobody else in the household. She's like, he drinks too much soda and it's not healthy for him. So she like basically was telling him that, and the mom, she interfered. She's like, oh, she can't tell my son because he, has contact with her. Oh, she trying to tell my son he can't drink no soda, and just being really ratchet. And it interferes because now he's being rebellious and he going to the store. I guess when he was coming off the school bus or something, she was like, he would get soda and she's like trying to cut down on the soda. And then it became an argument. It just was like, oh, well, my mom said that I could drink whatever I want to. And then the school got involved. So what do you do in a situation like that? Like, I don't buy soda at all, and not for me. So Sam would drink it on occasionally, and he would get ginger ale because I'll drink ginger ale, but I don't drink soda. So, and I didn't feed my kids soda. Like, it was like juice or just water. And like, what do you do in a case like that? Like, I'm not gonna say like I won't have soda in my house, but what do you do in a case that like the situation I told you? Like, suppose I get like a young man or a young girl, and she's just like, maybe as a part of her is like a habit, you know?
Mhm.
What do you do in a case like that?
So I have one kid who drinks only water and juice, like apple juice basically, and everything's bland. And the other one who's like, oh, I have a sweet tooth and I want soda, I want juices, I don't want to drink the water. So I've gotten creative where gotten the mini cans, so that it's like all we have are mini cans. That's all you're allowed, because then it limits the amount, and then it's also not as wasteful. But also I've tried introducing the, what are they, Crystal Light, those water packets, so that they can, it's like, okay, you want the flavor and you don't like water as much, but water is important, so let's do Crystal Light. And so we're finding those compromises. And I've also done a lot of education with the doctor around, like, let's look at, like, realistically how much sugar is in soda, like visually, because sometimes kids don't understand how much a gram is, or when you're looking at 24 grams or something like that that's in a soda liter, like they visually don't get it. And so I think that's been impactful too, is understanding visually, like, here in front of you, let's pour the, I poured the sugar on the counter. I was like, let's look at this because you need to understand why I'm being such a nutball about not putting so much sugar in your body.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So, because I think
In
sometimes the
general,
visual
though,
aid helps.
don't you think
Yeah.
that that could apply across the board anyway, right? Like,
Mhm.
too much carb, too much candy, too much anything.
And it gets them hyper.
Yeah.
Like, I think like Pepsi. Oh my God! If you could clean a toilet with Pepsi, that's something wrong with that.
I know, and I love Coke, and it's the same thing. Can take the rust off your car. You know?
Hey, so that's a good idea because, like, when I be losing like 5 pounds, I compare it to a 5-pound bag of sugar.
Yeah,
And I
but
said, right, a 5-pound bag of sugar is heavy. So
Mhm.
imagine just like losing 5 pounds. That's like that 5-pound bag of sugar. So comparison is good. Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, and everyone learns differently. So sometimes it's about adding some alternatives and meeting them in the middle somewhere, but also
Mhm.
doing those visuals so we're teaching and showing what the impact is to our body too. Because if not, they think we're just blah 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 yapping to them and being,
Yeah.
old people that are just lecturing.
And
Yeah.
sometimes letting them know that once it's gone, it's gone. It's no one's gonna be running to the store to go buy some more because you drank it all or you ate it all.
Mhm.
Right. And
It's just
discipline.
setting
So-
those limits and setting those expectations right off right off, especially when you see like, oh, the Oreos are gone, what? Or all the soda's gone or whatever the case may be. I just wanted to mention that, because we were talking about medication and diagnoses and all of that. Sometimes, depending on the medication that they're on, it could potentially suppress their appetite. So in situations like that, being mindful and observant as to did the child, did the child eat lunch? Did a child eat dinner? When you approach them, did they say, no, I'm not hungry, but now here it is 10 o'clock and now they're rummaging through the refrigerator. So in respect to that, being mindful of that. And if you see that that's what's happening, that when you say, oh, it's time for dinner and the child say, I'm not hungry, I don't want to eat, just letting them know, all right, I'm gonna put your place setting, whatever, in the microwave, or it'll be in the Tupperware in the refrigerator. And when you're hungry, you can go and you can warm it up. Because you may encounter that if they're on a medication and you find that they're consistently saying that they're hungry. We had a child in one of our foster homes that the child could go hours without eating and would refuse. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. And so, and the child was active. And then around, everyone would sit down for dinner. And sometimes he would sit down, to dinner with them. And he would still express that he wasn't hungry. And so the foster mom would just let him know that here's the plate. Whenever you're hungry, you can go in and around, and usually like around 8:30, 9 o'clock, sure enough, he's coming out of his bedroom and he's going in to warm up the food in order to eat it. So just being mindful, because it came to mind. Just to self-reflect, how hard do you think that it will be to remember and respond to the children's developmental age as opposed to their chronological age? And what are some behaviors that might easily be misinterpreted by adults that are more likely symptoms of a brain injury?
Thoughts on those guys?
Well, not
The
acting
kid-
their age. What about that? Not acting their age, or they act like they're either older or younger or something.
For the kids that the children they like playing with, sometimes they'll be older, but they get along better with like a lot of younger kids
Mhm.
because they could more relate to them.
That was an example, yeah.
Right, so the way you engage with them would be more of a younger age individual versus that 16-year-old you see in front of you.
Right.
Mhm.
And sometimes that can be difficult because we automatically go by what we're seeing. Oh, they should know, they're this age, they should know better. All right, but how do we adjust that? How do we, and to be able to remember that as well, because sometimes we forget.
We sure
I
do.
forget times that I have my daughter is 11. But there are times where she acts younger and I have to like, oh, okay, I need a backtrack here.
You're like, I need to pause and let me just reframe this and what can I do?
Mhm.
And then what supports and resources in your community do you think would be helpful to support a child with FASD? And how could you find these supports and resources?
Therapy.
Mhm.
I could find it through, I'm sure the kids that have these issues already, well, maybe not already have a therapist assigned to them if it's needed.
Mhm.
But I would work with my team on getting those in place for my foster child.
Sometime a neighborhood church, if you're affiliated with a church, sometime them going to the church, you're not trying to push a religion on them, but just them being in that environment of a lot of love and just people caring for people. Sometimes that helps too.
Yeah. Like my town, Naugatuck, we have like a Naugatuck youth, I forgot what they call it, but it's essentially like a youth service
Okay.
organization. And they have a lot of different resources and things. So I would try to get the youth involved with them.
It's always so helpful to just Google and look and see what's around in your neighborhood and look to see what kind of community supports are there and how you can increase your supports and being part of community so you have